ready.
Roman, quick question. Are you guys going to do an introduction or how does it work?
If you mind, I will just present you as a moderator, and then you can go with the panel as it's like...
Perfect. Yeah, thank you.
So you're still waiting maybe for one of the participants, or everyone is here?
Sina and Igor.
Mm-hmm. We will have like 10 seconds, and then I think we're going to start.
Mm-hmm. So we're not waiting for Igor and Christina?
I think like Igor can be able to join, as like we sent to him one more time invitation. So I'm not sure, but we can wait for 1 minute. We just can... I will quickly present you guys and your topic, and then Igor will join by the middle, like in a few seconds, I think. So will be the next conversation about Web3 realities and shaping the future landscape of the gaming world. And the moderator will be the Niels Bienen from Singular, and he will present the other participants. So I'm leaving you in the good hands. So see you.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Roman. Yeah, very happy to be here with these panelists. Maybe let's do a quick round of introductions, say like who you are and who you work for, and then a bonus question: what is your favorite Web3 game? Who wants to go first? Matt?
Oh, happy to. So, where am I? I used to have a gaming startup in Web3 back in 2021, I think, but didn't work super well. But in the meantime, I was investing a lot, and now I'm focusing purely on the investment part. I did some gaming deals as a deal partner for a gaming VC, and also I'm writing some investment newsletter and trying to help kind of like beginner investors enter the Web3 space. And my favorite Web3 game, that's a tough one. I would say it's probably common answer to most people, but Shrapnel. I'm really looking forward, been there for a long time and really looking to test the game out properly.
Cool. Let's move on to you, Asaf. Hey.
So Asaf Nadler, one of the co-founders of Addressable and the COO. What we do in Addressable is that we associate blockchain data with social data to help marketers, including game developers, understand their marketing picture and optimize their paid media campaigns on Twitter ads and display ads and a variety of other channels. And my favorite Web3 game is maybe Upland or Uncaged Soccer. That both of them are super cool.
Cool. Hayder, let's move on to you.
Yeah, hello. I'm Hayder. My background is very technical. I've always been a huge gamer. Back in 2018, I kind of moved on from the technical side and became more entrepreneurial when I joined Consensus. We spun out a startup called Community Gaming back then. And about a year ago, I resigned from there. A few months back, I decided to create Whalepass, still a brand new company. We're still in beta. We are creating a toolkit for game developers to make integration of Web3 tools easier into their games. Can imagine like anything that is in the metagame is going to exist there. Battle passes is where we're focusing first. Then other things like loot boxes and things like that. As for favorite game, I've heard really good things about Parallel. I'm still on the wait list, but I would like to really try it out.
Cool. Hey, Igor, you just joined us as well. Nice to meet you. Maybe a quick introduction.
Hello, everyone. My name is Igor. I am founder of Qbein. Most of the time, Qbein doing Web3 stuff, development, kind of financial technologies, including Web3 games, on-chain, off-chain games, something like that.
Awesome. Hey, Christina.
Hi.
We're doing a quick round of introductions. We can maybe introduce yourself. And there's also a bonus question, what your favorite Web3 game is.
Sure. So I'm Christina. I'm the CEO and co-founder of READYgg Games, or READYgg, essentially our Web3 platform. I've been in tech for a little over 9 years now, building various projects in Web2 and now mostly in Web3. Favorite game is actually one of our clients' games called Runestone Keeper. They're bringing really interesting elements of esports on chain. They've released their first version of their beta test, and the full version is about to be released. So I definitely would invite you to check that out. Just interesting concepts as esports on chain.
Cool. Well, it's nice to meet everyone. My name is Niels. I work for Singular. We help game developers and also Web3 developers to understand the effectiveness of their paid media campaigns. So wherever they're spending on Discord, on Telegram, on Twitter, on TikTok, we track those costs and the actions that happen within the game and also within Web3 games on the back of that. So we have a lot of customers that come to us now with their new games and ask us, hey, like, how can we work with Singular? How can we actually like work with you to understand how effective your UA is? There's going to be a few questions about that. And I think for Asaf Addressable, that's super interesting as well, that part of it. But I wanted to start with a more like generic question about the ecosystem itself. How would you describe the outlook for the ecosystem in 2024? And like, what are you most excited about for the coming year? Who wants to go first? Asaf, go first.
I can take that. So my perspective is that of the marketers. So over the past year and a half, we've been working with 200 marketers in Web3, a lot of them coming from gaming. And I think that we noticed two main trends. The first of them is a lot of Web3 gaming is going mobile. So it didn't used to be the case. Usually when we saw marketing campaigns, it's an ad that's directing to a web landing page because of a lot of reasons associated with the iOS marketplaces. And now we're seeing a huge adoption of mobile, which is, I think, a very good thing for the ecosystem. And another thing that we're seeing is the use of account abstraction to allow more users to easily log in without necessarily understanding blockchain or having a wallet. And I think the two together are somewhat leading Web3 gaming more into the mainstream, which I think is a good outlook for the ecosystem for 2024.
I can jump in. So I think as well, our outlook is incredibly positive. I think for us, we're kind of taking sort of the temperature around our go-to-market strategy. So selling to a developer, and I'm talking a developer on the web in the Web2 space, to actually migrate to Web3 was much harder of a conversation than currently now. I think developers are looking at Web3 as, or gaming on chain essentially to tap into additional monetization channels. They're looking at elevating so many experiences for their own players, which are obviously their clients, and they really, really want to tap into it. So I think for us, we're just having such an influx of, Web2 curious publishers and studios. And I'm not talking about only indie developers. I'm talking about established, game studios, which have 10, 20, 50 million monthly active users in their games, if not 100 million monthly active users in their games. So these are established studios now being very curious about the Web3 space. So I'm sort of relating that curiosity to positivity of, so many more games are going to come into the space, means so many more players are going to come into the space because a lot of players are, playing these Web2 IPs that are now going to migrate to Web3. So not only do I see so many developers coming into the space, but so many players following the IPs that they love. So I think that's incredibly exciting, for this year. And I have a few IPs that are incredibly interesting about to be migrating. So just watch out some of the news. But I think that's sort of the excitement is really this true migration that's about to happen.
Nice. Sounds interesting.
Yeah, and I think like there's little to add into it, but also the macro perspective, like, you know, Bitcoin past 50K. So again, there's like Web3 in the news pretty much all the time now. And that's definitely going to help. And we have so many different like the macro catalysts from the economical side or investment side. So people will be more talking about Web3. And that will again drive people more asking like, okay, so what is actually Web3, right? What is Bitcoin? Pretty much everyone knows, but with the Ethereum ETFs coming, then much more people will start asking, okay, so what is Ethereum? Maybe I know what is Bitcoin, but I don't know what is Ethereum. And suddenly it starts exploring the use cases and think, okay, yeah, but there may be some games, right? I can see that they're using Ethereum and going deeper, like to the L2s and other use cases. I think that's also gonna really help all of the verticals in the Web3 and gaming especially, yeah.
Absolutely. I think like we're seeing the same thing. It's like a lot of developers like come to us and like we look at, hey, on what platforms are you actually active, or what do you actually need to track to see how effective that your UA or paid media is, right? And then we see these Web3 elements simply pop up that previously weren't there. And I think especially like in the last, I would say 8 to 10 weeks, there's been a lot more activity on that front compared to say Q3 and Q4 2023. So generally speaking, like probably the outlook is very healthy and heaving with activity as well. So that's nice. Maybe Christina, I just want to get back to you here. When you market, say, a Web3 game in 2024, is that even a vertical? Like, how would you even classify these folks that are adding like these elements into their game? Because it's all kind of being thrown into like one specific vertical, one specific terminology. How would you market it?
Yeah, and this is why I was also talking about just like on-chain gaming. And that's how we explain it to developers. It's like, how do they tap into the power of being on-chain to essentially unlock a bunch of things? That being, as Asaf was saying, you know, tapping into an on-chain player profile, which is actually completely account abstracted, you know, allowing the developer to actually be able to launch their games on multiple blockchains, but still tapping into that one player and giving multiple different experiences. Tapping into on-chain quests, which for a publisher is actually incredibly powerful, because now if you do have various IPs, you're able to move a player to another game in your sort of publisher roster. That creates super powerful incentives where in one game they'll get asset A or NFT A, in, you know, game 2 they get NFT B. Well, if you make it to game C, well, that's a crafting moment, and, you know, continue on your amazing player journey. So all of these different fragmented features is sort of being implemented in games really strategically. So it's not like the whole game is going on chain. It's not every game event. It's certain leveling or questing, just to introduce players to certain concepts of on-chain gaming, and also for the developer to start really tapping into their strategy. Also, we work with multiple developers, so they could be literally building a AAA game, which, you know, having the whole game on chain and having much more deeper sort of integration makes a little bit more sense. Hyper casual games, they're bringing in just more of a sort of reward, on-chain reward mechanisms that brings a lot of players through multiple games, because that's what the players like. They like to play a game 10 minutes, jump to the next game, jump to the next game. So these publishers are able to interact with that. The other important element is secondary markets or marketplaces actually in games. So we're introducing developers to the concept now of looking at their games as these micro, you know, economies or even micro metaverses in which they can now rent out their real estate. And I'm not talking about selling land specifically. I'm literally talking about injecting a marketplace where they can invite players now to create, to sell in their marketplace through UGC, which we are huge fans for Web3 gaming. We think UGC is literally gonna, you know, explode. So everything user-generated content-wise, now you're inviting players to create content for you based on templates you sell them. It's solving not only a content issue, because more and more people want to buy things, want to buy assets, want to buy skins, want to buy various things in games, but it's also adding a new monetization channel, because as these player creators sell in your game, well, now you're able to get a revenue share off it. when an item is sold for the second time, well, you still get your revenue share from it. So it creates this really interesting monetization path for the player because of the aspect of ownership. So I'll stop there, but essentially there's so much that players are tapping into, and they're looking at the game mechanic and what makes sense to start introducing to their demographic and then building from it.
I think it's really interesting. Like, does anyone else want to comment on like how you market a Web3 game, like how you would classify it?
I can do.
Go ahead.
Go for it.
Thank you. Regarding the previous question about outlook of Web3 gaming market in 2024, the outlook is incredibly promising. The advantages in the blockchain technology like NFT, DeFi, we are seeing, and we're convinced that gaming and finance we can see like never before, something like that. I am particularly excited about the potential of true player ownership, interoperability between games, and innovative play-to-earn mechanics, something like that. Regarding the marketing, I think the marketing just started. The development is not so in active phase, but the bullish we come, the more clients will ask for development, something like that. Now, most of the projects, they was in the hibernation, something like that, and now they raising the necessary funds to pivot to the market, and they more like more needed marketing right now. Something like that.
Cool.
Yeah,
I think maybe a question that we wanted to discuss as well, which kind of taps in what you both are saying. We're looking at the market and like what is being developed and like so many new players like entering the market. If you look at like mass adaptation, right, of Web3 gaming, would you foresee that happening in the next, say, like 1 or 2 years? Or like what would be the obstacles there? Maybe Hayder, you could speak to that.
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm excited for Web3 in general is kind of the hype dying down a little bit, like hyping the product as a Web3 tool. Now people are finally seeing them as just a solution to get you to point B. Like, you know, you're at point A, this is a technology to get you to point B. And it's exciting. Like, I don't think a game needs to say that an on-chain item is an on-chain item for the player. Maybe there's a subset of players that are very excited about that, but for myself and for the friend group that I play video games with, I don't think we really care about that. Maybe a better way to say it is to say that it's a tradable item. That seems like it's something that makes a lot more sense. Like, and for a video game studio, you can say that, hey, we can enable you to have tradable items without taking a huge cut like Valve does. And that might bring in a lot more developers into the pack, because a lot of times when I speak to them, they are just saying that we don't want to be part of this Web3 stuff that we see on Twitter. We kind of want to stay away from it. And unfortunately, that's the image that they see. So I hope that once this type of hype goes down, we'll be able to replace it with something that's better.
Can I add a bit? I agree with Hayder and want to like argue a bit that it's not about the hype, it's about the narrative. The narrative for 2024, it's more likely like restaking, the airdrops, something like that. And the game publishers, game developers, they don't see the narrative, they don't see the future, they act only like from the past experience. They think like that play to earn is the core of the game. If the play to earn is not profitable, nobody will play. they need to change the paradigm. They need to align to the new narratives. For example, if you are the game, you can go to the Blast Bera chain, to Manta, Mantle, different new L2 blockchains that are young, and offer a partnership with them. Like I bring you users, I give you TLV, I give you staking on your protocol, give me some airdrops, give me something that is not money, that I can do as a motivation to my players to hold these kind like NFTs that they bought the account in the game, and while they are on this network, all related, let's say, gamify projects will give them kind like airdrops on the same account where the NFT is storing. That allows them to have continuous interest, not like jumping on the back the capitalization is fine to play to pay for them who play, also to hold, also to do restaking, also to help what Eigenlayer doing right now. If some of big publishers decide to be Eigenlayer in Web3 gaming, it's open niche. They can just set up their entity as a main player and give restaked airdrop, like derivatives of the main assets to the players. Everyone will be happy. You don't need even to play in 2024. Thank you.
I think you raised an interesting topic there in terms of bringing players like into the game in the first place. I think a lot of the investments that we saw in 2023, I think at the start was on the premise of, hey, there's actually not going to be like any costs involved in trying to do UA for my games, right? Maybe Asaf, this is a question for you here. Looking at Web3 in 2024, how do you actually grow a Web3 game? Like, what are the things you want to take into consideration there?
I think it's a lot about the data. So I think some of the other members of the panel mentioned some of the marketing points for Web3 games and why would people want to play Web3 games. But I think that one opportunities that a lot of marketers overlook is the game changer of the data, right? If you are building a Web2 game, pretty much limited to first-party data, you don't know anything about the world to start with, and you're waiting for players to onboard your game, starting to estimate their lifetime value, whether they're going to doing, what's not working, and that's hard. It's really, really hard to bootstrap, even if you're funded by VCs. And I think that with Web3, the publicly available data that comes with blockchain is a huge opportunity and enables you to see what games are trending on the market and what's the lifetime values of potential gamers. And furthermore, if you're tapping well into the data, you can optimize your marketing campaigns based on what takes place on the blockchain. For instance, you might do an Instagram campaign or a Facebook campaign for, I want to find people who will click and download the app. But with Web3, you can actually say, I want to optimize the campaign for something that drives a new gamer that is purchasing some of the NFTs and isn't selling them a week after, and perhaps traded some of that on the secondary market to drive more gamers into the game, it's unbelievable. I mean, in Web2 gaming, you can never do smart marketing like that. And a lot of that is because of the publicly available data and what you can see, not just first party, but what actually people are doing on any other game. And since the beginning of time, without knowing who they are, which is what marketers want to know. They want to understand the trend. They want to tap into that. They want to leverage that to grow. And I think that's a huge opportunity on marketing.
I'd love to actually dig in on this and kind of backtrack on the question from before. So I think I can't emphasize enough that, for a lot of these studios and publishers, they're gaming businesses. So in the end, they have to make sure that the unit economics make sense. So even like, just to bring it back, free-to-play games 8 years ago, developers weren't doing them because they didn't understand how they would ever monetize them. And this is the same situation right now. So until they actually see KPIs and understand how they can monetize various different situations, obviously there's going to be a little resistance. And I truly think it's not so much about the negativity or positivity in the media. However, that definitely always will have an impact. It really is, they just want to know the unit economics. So to go back to Asaf, one of the things that we obviously talk about with our developers is having a hybrid user acquisition like strategy. So part of our tech is working with a lot of Web2 studios, because we really see Web2 games as literally the vehicles that will scale people into Web3. Literally one day a player will be playing a Web2 game, they're going back the next day, they're clicking on the same app, there's nothing that they've had to do, and now they're playing the Web3 game. And then they're creating their Web3 accounts very seamlessly. But the idea here is that's actually part of the Web3 user acquisition strategy, which is create your Web3 game, acquire your users with the Web2 channels, bring those users into your game, and then start also activating Web3 user acquisition campaigns to tap into the players that are already there, who may be a different demo, but as more Web2 players come into the space, which we are obviously, quite a great proponent of that, well, now you're getting that data that you really need, and you're launching the campaigns like Asaf was saying. So it's really about finding that hybrid sort of middle ground, tapping into both user acquisition strategies, and that's what we're demonstrating to developers after is the KPIs. Like, what's your ARPDAU? What's your average revenue per daily active users compared to the user acquisition costs? When you're comparing Web 2 at $5, $6, $7 CPI to a couple pennies on the Web3 side, that's when you start getting, big eyes from publishers and developers, because they're really realizing what the unit economics can be. And that's when they start really, really getting very curious about the space.
Super interesting. Well, so looking at some of those UA channels and for Web3, can someone maybe dig into those, give some examples of what they are, what people are using, but also maybe Asaf, you're a specialist here. How do you even measure success then for these Web3 specific users that you're looking to acquire, or those Web3 specific campaigns that you're looking to run?
That's a great question. So it's two questions actually. One of them is what are these marketers looking for? What's the unit economics? What they're going to look for? I think that splits between more mature games in which there's already a business model or unit economic or something that they can truly measure. To be frank, that's not a large portion of the games in the ecosystem. And for ones that are starting out and want to explore their market, I think it's a lot about tapping into targeted markets. For instance, I want to aim for specific users who are already playing role-play games in Web3 or understand the value of rewards or doing anything like that. And I believe that with the current state of the market, it's still advertising on Web2 to bring them into Web3 and keep them in the ecosystem. Like Christina is saying, we see two challenges over there. One of them is policy and regulation with ad network. It's still not very easy to take a Web3 game and advertise it anywhere. We have some way around that by partnering with some of the notable ad platform. Twitter, for instance, is still probably the biggest playing ground with everything related to Web3. But also display ads on specific places. I think it depends a lot on the type of the Web3 game, for instance, whether it's skill-based or luck-based, it means a lot with regards to policy and what you'll be able to do, but also where demographically are the gamers that you want to drive. If that's US, then Twitter is probably a very good place to go. But if it's more of Southeast or other places, then perhaps display is the way to go. So I think that to kind of wrap that, gamers need to ask themselves, who's my target audience? Where are they at? And what's the best way to tap into them? And the channel is pretty much straightforward when they're able to answer these questions.
And I'll actually add one more thing. I think what we've also seen, absolutely everything Asaf was saying, completely agree with. And also I think blockchains in general. I think one of the things that's been really interesting speaking to developers is that they see blockchains as an extension of their publishing strategies, which essentially means that blockchains is also another method of user acquisition, because blockchains try to build their community around various projects that they have, around various things that they're doing. So actually partnering up with various blockchains, or as a studio or publisher, finding the right blockchain for your demographic is also a great way for user acquisition. You're also bringing in a different type of demographic. This is going to be a more, Web3 whale type of player, which obviously can bring a lot of benefits to your game as well. And especially on the esports side, especially in games that have, momental events in the game or whatnot, having those type of players be super engaged will actually likely engage the Web2 players you're bringing in as well. So blockchains is also an interesting user acquisition strategy in which we've started tapping into with partners like Aptos and so on to essentially tap into their community to bring those type of players that are very attached to those blockchains into the games themselves, which we have been seeing with that first game I mentioned, Runestone Keeper.
Want to add?
Sorry.
Yeah, want to add. You miss to tell about the crypto influencers, and I want to disassemble these questions to the portrait of who are the actual Web3 gamers. Who are them and why they play Web3 games, not Web2? Because Web2 games are for example, Heroes 3, Might and Magic, maybe much more interesting, but it's free to play than most of other Web3 games. The problem with Web3 games, it's money and tokenomics. Usually it works like this. When the project raises real money, not commitment, like real money on board, everyone very interested in this project, and nobody have a clue or don't care what kind the genre or project is about. They care about the money behind the project. The real investors like A16Z, like tier 1 players, real chats, who support these projects, they real how to earn on it. Most of the Web3 gamers have full-time job to find the real game and play there on positive sum game, something like that. Nobody care about Web3 games because every transaction you need to pay. To sell something, you need to pay. To authorize something, you need to pay. Who in the real consciousness want to pay for playing games? Nobody. They want to earn. They want to get some profit on it, on these actions. So mainly the Web3 players are crypto against people who mining the gems. They call the tokens of such games gems, something like that. And the auditory Web2 gamers, they are not quite educated. They're doing it because they heard that it's possible to earn in Web3 games some money or something like that. Usually they, as hamsters, are often shaved off. Something they pay for all this stuff. I want to tell that need to focus on players who understand why they play Web3 games, who they are. They are true crypto people. And they know when the money comes to the project, that they flow to the project. They flow everywhere where money flows. So the main purpose of any project to raise really huge amount of money that makes them successful, something like that. And everything else is secondary. It's like the bull run. On bull run, any project with money is good. On bear market, you saw good projects that died in hibernation because they have lack of money. They can't support this game, something like that. Thank you. Hope it was helpful.
So there's two things I want to kind of tap into there. So one is more about technology itself, how you can actually open maybe a specific Web3 component to a mass adaptation to a mass audience. Because I think what you're saying is, hey, there's a specific Web3 player that is only in it for the money. I would counter that a little bit, because I think if you look at blockchain technology itself, it actually has potential to reach like mass audiences, but in different ways, not only for a very, very niche audience. And my question here is, when you're talking to, like, say, established Web2 developers, or maybe even like, web developers, right? What kind of like challenges do you encounter when people want to integrate blockchain technology into their games?
Yeah, can I
Okay.
jump on that really quick. Yeah. So, kind of related to back to what I said before. It's the image was damaged a little bit by the previous narrative, and they always come back to that. Like when someone is a Web2 developer and they go to Whalepass and they see some Web3 related things, they're like, "Oh, you're a Web3 company. We don't really want to work with you," and that's really unfortunate. And I hope that we'll be able to fix that. One of the things that they come back with, for example, is we do not see interoperability between different games as realistic, and they're kind of right. Like it's too much to ask for a game developer to just represent this NFT in all of their games just because a player has it. So we would like to offer alternatives to like full interoperability. Interoperability through trade is actually very realistic. Interoperability through access is also very realistic. Previously, you're not able to, if you are just creating a Web2 game, you're not able to cross promote your game and a different game from a different game developer so easily and in a meaningful way, because you're just using different systems and you're using different things. But with the blockchain, those basic assets are standardized. Like there's an ERC20, 1155, 721. Those are the main ones. And every game that's going to be integrating with the blockchain is going to be using one of these. So it's going to be super simple to cross promote your game with another game once you have partnerships. So game A and game B can offer different rewards as part of their same, like for example, a battle pass, like level 10 can give you a reward that's coming from a completely different game. And now you're incentivizing the player to go and play that other game as well. So you're creating a very meaningful way to cross promote that. So I give that as an example to explain to regular Web2 developers that you don't have to be super speculative. You don't even have to have any utility for those assets. If you want, it can be purely cosmetic, and you're still going to be benefiting a lot from Web3 technology.
Yeah, what I also wanted to add is that for most of our developers, they're actually building free-to-play games. So I think the consensus here is that you don't have to pay to play, and we have so many different, types of games, types of genres, different literally global types of games, literally building free-to-play games, and it's who's going to pay? Well, again, we're talking about user acquisition and re-engagement costs. So if, for example, you're giving, a player a reward, and that reward essentially needs to be minted, well, that's part of your UA costs. Again, coming back to the unit economics. And I think one thing we often forget is that literally Web3, when we're talking about on-chain technology, we're talking to the most powerful data center ever existed, for our time. And I think we forget about just the data aspect of it. So when we're talking about interoperability, as Hayder was saying, for us, it's interoperability of data. So as Asaf was saying, for example, before, about literally, a developer looking for a player that has X, Y, Z, well, the interoperability part is actually you being able to read that object and reflect another type of object or another type of incentive in your game that reflects whatever that is. So if a player has a gold apple in their game and the equivalent of the gold apple in your game is the gold sword, well, fantastic. That's what you're going to incentivize that player with through that user acquisition call to action. So the idea here is, I think, for developers, the conversation needs to be around the data on chain and how they're utilizing and monetizing on the data on chain. And that's where the conversation changes completely. But most of our developers are literally playing free-to-play games because a large majority of users right now, gamers, are mobile gamers and are playing free-to-play games. So unless we don't super serve them what they want to play, they're not going to come. So we have to find methods of like building free-to-play games in, on-chain gaming, essentially.
And I think that this is also like super important about the free-to-play and the game itself. So it's not really about the tech, right? Don't sell the tech, sell the game. It should be more about the game itself. And for example, I really love what Ubisoft is doing with their Champions Tactics. There is no mention on NFTs. They have NFTs, they airdrop them for free, they are trading and something like 0.12 ETH. But they don't talk about NFT. They just take the advantage of using the technology, like, hey, you can sell the characters that you play with. You can possibly rent them out at some point. And exactly as both Christina and Asaf said, you have the data there that's available. You don't even need to do the partnerships. You can just decide, hey, I want these players with these NFTs to be able to come to my game and have something extra, right? So it's amazing how you can suddenly connect the worlds together. And I'm really interested here, maybe back, like a few questions back, but we were talking a lot about like user acquisition. And we know that it's not, it could be quite simple in the Web3 space, especially temporary. You could do some airdrop, something to get the users in. But how do you guys see the user retention, especially the Web3 players? Because in past, we saw a lot of like speculants and like hype waves driven players coming and going out of the games. So how is it really with the Web3 players and their retention in the games?
Only retro drops and airdrops can make them come back, because if they process the account, usually they delete this account and they have multi-account farms to green the network, let's say like this. And if they know that they get later something for their activity, like Starknet, like Layer Zero, providing some kind marketing activities and for using the services for exchange tokens or for renting lending protocols, stuff like that, providing the liquidity, they give airdrops. Like airdrops, retro drops, 100 proof that they will come back to check the wallet and withdraw the loot, something like that. Regarding the previous question about interoperability, question about technology is not a question. Technology can do everything. The big problem is regulation. You can't just simply use another person's IP rights and use his character in your game and stuff like that. And time to establish the partnership with the good IP take time. Sometimes half of the year, sometimes never, because everyone overestimate the value of the IP rights that they own, something like that. Sorry, thanks.
The only thing I would add to that, and it sounds like a simple catchphrase, but there are no shortcuts. Sometimes we meet game developers that are doing user acquisition early down the road, and they're super happy about their airdrop was a huge success. Gamers are flowing in endlessly, and they don't see any reason to do paid media campaigns or anything else that these Web2 game developers would have done. But as the airdrop is starting to sink and the users that are coming from Quest or monetizable communities are starting to drop, a lot of them coming from multi-account farms, as Igor mentioned, then you find out it's Web3 games are games. You need to find a way to tap into your user base and work that gradually and demonstrate the value, in which you go to a lot of other methods of UA, just like in Web2. But you have more data to rely on, and you have more IPs and ownership and other things to rely on. But nothing will generate retention with shortcuts. It just needs to be an awesome game, and you need to work to build it gradually. This is what I think.
And have two different token economics, one for gamers, another for investors, because investors and influencers and all people who give you the trust for your tokens will dump your token on every single moment when they can dump your token. Usually it's like this, without any optimistic scenario that they will hold because you are partners. No, they will dump because they need money. You need to have several economics for them and for users.
I think again, it all depends. Gaming is large. I mean, this is why we have AAA games to hyper casual games. Again, different types of players, different types of game mechanics, different types of engaged players. I mean, in just in mobile gamings, we have 3 types of monetizable players. We have the minnows, we have the dolphins, and we have the whales. We often talk about the whales because that's the big money, but the minnows and the dolphins, spending a various $5 to $1 a month, having a few 100,000 of those, well, it's going to give you some money. So you're still going to find different ways of monetizing them. So you're not only monetizing whale Web3 players, you're monetizing as well the other ones through various different monetization channels. And I feel that's now the evolution or innovation of gaming in Web3, because gaming is gaming in the end. When everybody migrates to Web3, it's about talking about all of these different demographics that developers need to tap into, depending on what type of game they're building, on what platform. PC gamers spend way more than mobile gamers, but mobile gamers come in, flews of millions of players. So you're kind of finding the right balance. So I think as we evolve in the space, we have to also evolve our language and who we're actually targeting and tapping into. And a lot of games that I'm talking to, some of them know they have a lifespan of 2 to 3 years. They're not going to release their own token. So they won't have a specific tokenomics in their game. They're tapping on chain. They're creating NFT collections. They're opening up marketplaces and secondary markets. The gaming aspect is going to look way different than, a AAA type game that's going to have a lifespan of 10 years with a really strong token economy. Both are excellent games to me. It just depends the type of, fragmented sort of strategic aspect we're adding into all of these games. And this is why, again, user acquisition and data is so important, because literally every single type of game is going to have a different strategy.
Agree, but they have one thing in common.
We need to move on to the next question because we have only 15 minutes left, and I want to go a bit on a different level, because I think we kind of went down a hatch a little bit here. But I have a general question, and maybe start with you, Birger, as well. If you look at these, say, Web3 specific developers that come out, they've developed a game, they're pitching it to their investors. What do you guys think are the things that these investors are looking out for if they want to see if this company, if this game has potential to actually be successful then?
They're looking for real users to see on board, not bots, real users. They're looking for traction. Huh?
So we don't like bots, that's true.
No, it's like reality. For every crypto project, investors looking for the traction. Now they need real users who literally use this game or play this game. So sustainable users, not like this parabola, but something like plateau that usually use this amount of users. Sometimes small clips, something like that. They need the profit sharing, let's say, reports that they earn at least $1 from every user, something like that. Anything like 1 cent, but some kind reports that this game is profitable or have any potential to be profitable. And they need good tokenomics regarding the project. Of course, good team and good partners in the cap table.
I think this relates to what we were saying. Hey, when the average cost of maybe getting a user in is only a couple of cents, but that's also because most of these players are actually not real humans, right? They're bots. That actually doesn't really mean anything, Then you're having a ghost project here. Matt, I want to ask you here again.
A lot of projects make them real, like Galaxy. They help to track the real players. Now it's a trend about the KYC, something like that, where you know that you pay for the real address. Git Passport doing this, Polygon ID. There are tools on Web3 ecosystem that allows to clean bots from the real users, and they're doing it very effectively, 98% of result.
And assuming this is part of the business where we say, hey, we have real users here, we are not affected by a massive influx of bot traffic. Still, then my question is, and Matt, again, going to you here, what is an investor looking out for? What can define success? What are the kind of key things that you look out for to determine I'm going to put my money there?
it really depends on the stage of the project and the type of investor. So I was part of some VC deals, and when it's early in the game, really what most of the VCs were really focusing on is the loop in the game. So things like tokenomics, marketing, they will help you with that. A good VC will support you. They will help you build tokenomics that are sustainable. They will help you with the marketing strategies. They can find some agency that can help you. But what they really are looking for is, are you able to build a game that will be kind of like fun to play? And exactly the retention will be more than kind of like 0, 0, nothing, especially in the Web3 gaming world, because the acquisition is really, let's say, easy, cheaper, but the retention is different because exactly as you said, and you all guys said, like the users are often either bots or there are some airdrop hunters that are trying to extract as much value as possible and leave the game. And that's not the type of player that the studio or the VC wants to have, right? So this is the thing. And then further down the road, you can think about more stuff like, yeah, is the tokenomics sustainable? Does it make sense to me? Are there some things where I can actually make the money out of or not? But at the beginning, it's really about the gaming loop.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm not an investor, but I can can give my 2 bits here. I think that in Web3 you're able to do very, very unique things, and that's what this technology allows us to do. And right now, I would say that there are no set patterns, like no set successful patterns. You know, like in regular Web2 gaming, you have hyper casual, hybrid casual, PC, mobile, and they're kind of been standardized because they've been around for a while. That hasn't been standardized yet in Web3. I hope it will be soon. So then we can see a lot more adoption, and then people can get creative in other ways, since that will solve the economics and user acquisition problems. But yeah, like I don't think it makes sense to invest more in what was invested in like 2020 and 2022, like those rinse and repeat examples of airdrop, free mint that you see on Twitter all the time. I think it's time to move on from that.
Awesome. We're approaching like the last couple of minutes of the panels. Like what I want to do is give you the opportunity to give like the audience like one key takeaway, or like maybe something that we didn't touch on during the panel. Matt, you want to go first?
Oh, with this one.
Or who wants to go first? One key takeaway for the audience.
I guess I can jump in. I think we just need more developers to come into this space. We need more ideas. We need more innovation. We need more bad and good projects. We need to learn more from various different projects. As Hayder was saying, there's been a lot of rinse and repeat. And there's just so much more than that in gaming. So I think that we just need to be very open to developers' ideas. I think we need to encourage them to come in the space and just create various prototypes and just jump into it. And I think that, what, as also Hayder has said, there's no standardization. And I think that's good. I want it to stay like that for the next year or so, because I want more developers to come and help with standardization. Actually, hybrid casual is very new. And actually, I think that hybrid casual will actually jump or actually create, become its own genre of games because of Web3. Because the idea of hybrid casual is to have multiple different game sessions and be rewarded really fast with different methodologies. That could only truly happen through ownership. So I think Web3 is actually going to open up hybrid casual as a genre. So that would be my takeaway: is developers come in, the space is open, just build and innovate.
Nice. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I want to also give a takeaway. Take risks, be bold, do what others not doing. For example, BRC20 is a new narrative. ERC 404 is new narrative. Like, build something that others not building. Go to hackathon, show yourself on the hackathon, win the hackathon, win second hackathon. give traction to the investors, to the people who look at you, something like that. Don't use the same processes like was a year ago. They are not working. They are finished. You need to use something else. Figure out with whom you can make a small partnership. Maybe they are the same size as you are. Maybe they are like new blockchain, they need exposure. Be bold, come to them and tell like, let's do partnership. Make a partnership, get tokens, share the tokens with the community. Make your community attracted to like set up on your game, where when you daily for the week or month join the game, you are liable to get the NFT that allows for airdrop for next half of the year, something like that. People are greedy and think only about business. Don't think about happiness and stuff like that, because Web3 games, they are business. If people give money, they expect ROI. All investors expect that bigger investor will buy this beautiful, very unique idea game or whatever they are building right now. Just doing something different, you have chance to be successful this year. Doing the same like previous year, you will be like other nowhere. Thanks.
So
Thanks,
with
Igor.
with a very optimistic view, Web3 and blockchains are the new internet, and I think that we're currently looking at Web3 games as a skeuomorphic version of games, right? It's you take an existing game, you replace the incentive mechanism behind the scene with a blockchain. But I think it's much bigger than that. And looking with a very optimistic view into the future, I think that as we'll start seeing more and more Web3 games connecting with ownership and joint ownership, we'll see a breaking off monopoly, and games will start looking different. And I'm a big believer that it's going to be a game changer. And with that, my takeaway would be, don't overlook the data. It's way bigger than doing user acquisition. It's furthermore the ability to do the market research. Where are big things happening? It's all transparent. You can see which games are suddenly gaining success and where two games that are doing co-ownership are suddenly succeeding. And as a founder, that's a game developer, you always need to be on the lookout of where there are business opportunities. And knowing that the data is out there, don't overlook that. Find the tools to tap into the data and capture the right opportunities.
Thanks, Asaf. I think, yeah, from my side, I can maybe also add something, because we do also like speak to a lot of businesses, and we're also looking at, hey, that growth marketing journey, like one, like how can we actually picture that? How can we help you define what success is, and how can we actually like visualize your KPIs as well? And I think that a lot of players in the market right now have an understanding that it's very fragmented in terms of what is possible to see within a report or within a dashboard of a measurement partner. But you can actually, for example, combine your paid media cost with on-chain events as well. You can have an overview of, hey, like what are my most successful marketing channels? What are my users actually doing within the game? And having those insights into ROI, that's also something that you can go to market with and say, hey, I've got like, a sound business here, a sound game that I developed. Matt, I think you wanted to add something still as well. Matt, Hayder, and I think 1.5 minutes still have.
So I will go quickly, thanks. Yeah, I think like one message would be try to inspire with what is working in Web2. I was talking to a lot of gaming studios and founders, and they were really kind of like reinventing the wheel. There are so many things on all of the levels that are working in Web2, on the game design level, on the economics as well. If you're thinking about how to build your in-game economy, well, think about games that have it somehow polished already. World of Warcraft is having somehow good economy for many, many years, and it's working there, right? So I think that's like one thing. Try not to do everything from scratch because it already exists. And the second is I still feel that there are not many real players in the Web3 space. So I really liked what Christina and also Asaf was mentioning about the Web2 kind of like strategies, marketing. I think that's really like how to move forward, to bring in the Web2 players, not trying to figure out new ways of airdrops and things, how to attract the Web3 players, because there are very few of them. But Web2 players is like 3 billion, maybe even more. So if you can get that right, then you will have the real gamers that are playing the games for the games, not for trying to get quickly some money. And that's how we can build a sustainable game.
Absolutely. Guys, I think it's the last seconds. Thank you so much for your time today. And everyone, all the best of luck with your businesses. And hopefully we'll keep in touch.
Thank you
Thank
guys.
you.
It was amazing.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye.
Thank you guys for participation in a great panel. It was a pleasure to listen to you, and I hope our listeners and the people who were in conference were really enjoying as me because of your insights and different views on this question. So